We will call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Election Commissioners for the City of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Marisol Hernandez. I'm the chair, and with me today is Commissioner William Cressy
Present.
and Commissioner June Brown.
Present.
Next item on the agenda is consideration of the agenda. Any proposed changes? If not, we will proceed with the approval of a number of board meeting minutes. And is there any objection to taking them all as one motion?
No. No objection.
Is there a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of November 12th, 2024, December 9th, 2024, December 23rd, 2024, and January 14th, 2025?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next is the Executive Director's Report. Mr. Holliday.
Good morning, Madam Chair,
Good morning.
Commissioner Brown, and Commissioner Cressy. We completed a walkthrough of the Washington Hall Conference Room at Harold Washington College on Tuesday, February 18th for our upcoming voter engagement forum on April 5th. The space will comfortably seat over 150 attendees. Harold Washington College is providing sound, audio, and visual equipment for the event. Also last week, we convened a meeting with our lobbyists, Derek Blader, the county and Lake County Clerk's Office, and Mike Grady, the lobbyist for the Association of Election Commissions of Illinois, to discuss our 2025 legislative priorities and review recently proposed legislation that affect election procedures in our state. Our General Counsel, Adam Latham, will provide additional updates in his legislation update, but we will continue these meetings and follow-ups actions through the rest of the legislative section. Last week, we also met with 44th Ward Alderman Bennett Lawson to debrief after the November 5th presidential election and discuss potential early voting, a new early voting location in the ward. The 44th Ward has the highest turnout in the last election of 96%, but also saw long lines at existing Merlot Library site. We will continue to work to find potential locations for an additional early voting site to request in future budgets. I have some updates on repairs taking place at the warehouse. Life safety work continues on the second floor as they finish installing the new sprinkler system. The restoration of both the washrooms on the third floor north section is in process and will be completed by the end of March. The board has scheduled a CPR AED training class with the Red Cross that will take place on March 4th, 2025 in 2 sessions. After the training, the staff are provided with 2-year certification, digital material, and digital certificate. From February 11th through February 13th, I attended the 2025 Winter Conference for the Partnership for Large Election Jurisdictions Pledge in San Diego, California. There I was able to connect with election authorities from around the country and learn from other large election jurisdictions like Los Angeles County on the best practices and preparing for the 2026 elections. And also attended panel discussions including breakthroughs in voter outreach and education and operational innovations and partnership. We also participated in an interactive table exercise created to help election officials prepare for emergencies. Finally, the board will be closed this Monday, coming Monday, March 3rd, for Kashmir Pulaski Day. Office closures have been posted on our website and social media. So ends my report.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Do we have the number of responses? You said you did the walkthrough for the forum. You said it seats 150. Do we have any kind of measure of what we're looking for? Because I didn't get the budget yet.
Okay, so our Communication Director Max Bever, he has those figures on the responses and things like that.
Okay, and the programming?
Yes.
And the budget. Okay, the warehouse, which one, which building is that again? I keep getting-
1819,
Is that the one where we had previously done all the work, 1819?
yes.
So our funds are, we're just going on what
Well,
we've already built out?
Yeah, well, these repairs are not against our budget.
No, that's not what I'm saying. We did do a remodel, if I remember correctly, of
That was
one of the buildings.
That was 1819, the 5th and the 6th floor.
So this is just a continuation of
Yes.
what we've done?
Second and the 3rd floor in that same building, and repairs on those floors as
Okay, so we're staying at 1890. What was 1869?
1869 was the main office over there, and our area, as well as the setup area for of the equipment right there on the 2nd floor.
But we hadn't expended any funds on that.
No, we
prior to
haven't.
this. So 1819 is where we spent our money. Okay, the CPR session is the 4th?
Yes, March 4th.
Is it here?
Yes, it's going to be in 2 sessions, a morning session and an afternoon session.
So anybody can come to us?
Well, there's a list, but you can be added if you'd like to come.
Okay, I'll look at my calendar and let you know afterwards. And maybe this is for Mr. Bever as well, but you said that in San Diego you were able to connect with larger election administrative groups.
Yes.
So will we be able to use any of them at our forum? You said best practices
Well, yes, we can. We
as
can
far
look
as our
in.
program?
Yes, we can look into adding Carol, the executive director of Pledge, if she's available to come as well.
Or is she here, or if not, can they be zoomed in? I'm sure they have the equipment at Harold Washington for a Zoom. I'll get that to you though, program.
Certainly, we can discuss more.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Again, what were the times of the CPR training next Tuesday?
We'll have a morning session at 9, and then we'll have an afternoon session about 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
And the organization you were at in San Diego, is that a fairly new organization, or
Fairly new,
Oh.
yes.
is that,
I would say maybe within the last 4 years. Yes.
Really been active since 2020.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to know. And also just, for our forum at Harold Washington, are we planning on providing any food or beverage, and if so, do they have facilities for that?
Yeah. We're going to provide a breakfast and a lunch. So that'll be part of the budget that will be presented.
And they have facilities to, for food and beverage. They know
Yes, they
that's
do.
coming, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, very good. Okay, that's it for now.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll hear from our Assistant Executive Director, Mrs. Spera.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Cressy. I was on vacation for the last 2 weeks in January. I have been participating in weekly meetings with NetWoven representatives and staff. I arranged a contract management and procurement meeting last week with staff. I have initiated biweekly meetings with Dominion's representative, with the next meeting scheduled for this Thursday, February 27th. At the warehouse, staff continues to remove supplies from the blue ESCs. All damaged voting equipment that was sent out for repair has been returned and replaced. Acceptance testing has been done on all the equipment as well. And that ends my report.
Okay.
You said the net woven status, that's one of my major things. So what's the status of it? Is it
Current
completed?
status, so the purchasing department has requested some modifications. They have been completed. Finance department is in the testing process of the reporting and budget line items. So finance is testing. purchasing has requested some modifications, and they've been completed.
So those
Am I
are,
correct, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit ongoing, but most of the projects have been completed for the current updates. The next step on the to-do list, when they are fully complete with that, which we're going to be discussing in this week's meeting, is providing them with data on the existing contract inventory so that they can do an upload and merge all that into the system.
I thought that's where we were previously, merging.
Well, that project was going on with staff, like one by one. So NetWoven itself has not done just taken the data set from us to upload it all at once, which is apparently not going to be as simple as it sounds, because they're going to take all of our data categories and have to create spots for them within the system.
So what's the anticipated timeline for completion?
Well, I'm not exactly sure how long they think that part of the process might take, but I would imagine no more than a couple weeks.
I don't know if you should tell me that.
I'll let you know what they say after this week's meeting, so I'll be more precise.
So
about
it's all on NetWoven, it's not us? We don't have anything to do with this?
Well, we're asking for the modifications and so forth.
So we're changing the contract?
Changing the contract? No.
Well, if we're asking for modifications, that's a change.
The contract expressly allows for the modifications. That's the purpose of the contract.
But when you modify, you change it. So that's why I'm asking what the timelines and where are we?
Well, I think we're getting extremely close to done. The next step is going to be uploading the data.
You can tell my hesitation and consider for that, but, all right, we'll discuss it further. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
One question with the ongoing work, the work we have, with our equipment at the warehouse. Are we having any problems doing that, conducting that, and also the rehabilitation work going on at the warehouse?
Okay, so currently we have staff who are working on both projects. The completion of the acceptance testing of the current equipment that was delivered, that has been completed. I believe if there's movement, Charles, there's a company that's hired.
No, it's not causing any problems because there's a company moving furniture and doing the remodeling that is separate from where our staff is working.
Okay. But eventually there'll be some movement around once that work is done?
Yes.
Yeah, so, okay. Just want to make sure we're not having any problems with logistics on that. Okay, very good. Thank you.
If that is all for Mrs. Sparrow's report, then we'll proceed with Mr. Bever, our Public Information Director.
Good morning, Commissioners. As the Executive Director said, we took a walkthrough of Washington Hall. That is the first floor space on Harold Washington College. Very accessible, visible from the street. Looks like it'll be a great location for our forum. We have two rooms, a slightly smaller one for people to check into, as well as our staging area for food. It will be boxed lunches as well as breakfast plates. And then a larger room that has three main projectors, additional televisions, and can comfortably seat more than 150 people, which is what we're expecting at this moment, as well as with tables. Looks like a good space. We're thankful for our partners at Harold Washington College. We have nearly 50 people that are now registered to attend the forum, and that is growing. I did provide an update to the commissioners on Friday, February 14th with that list, as well as our confirmed panelists. I'll do an update this week as well. But I'm very happy to say that we have confirmed panelists from many of our community partners, including League of Women Voters, Rainbow Push Coalition, Hispanic Federation, Chicago Votes, Equip for Equality, National Federation of the Blind, Chicago Lawyers Committee, Common Cause Illinois, South Asian American Policy and Research Institute, and Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund. We are continuing to add some additional panelists. We don't want to make our groups too large. We only have so much time in the day. But we're very grateful for a lot of our local and statewide partners that will be a part of this forum. For the request for information for our mobile app development, we received 10 responses, which have been very helpful in learning more about app functionality, especially for myself, but also our IT team. And that is going to be helpful in writing our request for proposals, which will be released in early March. That will be our official RFP. That will be out. That ultimately will get our contractor for mobile app development. We'll look to hit the ground running through the rest of the year to make sure that we've got that developed in time for the March 2026 primary. As the executive director said, we had both attended the Partnership for Large Election Jurisdictions conference. Just one reminder that we did attend by scholarship, so this was at no cost to taxpayers or no cost to the board budget. Good conference, again, to learn, especially from a communication standpoint, to learn what other jurisdictions are doing with their materials, with their voter guides. Took a nice tour of the San Diego County Clerk's office. Does always make me a bit jealous, especially when we toured their warehouse that's connected to their actual clerk facility. But we did get a good amount of pictures. I think that these type of conferences and tours are very helpful for us not to just learn what other large cities and election jurisdictions have, but how we can make future budget requests and point to the evidence that is out there. And I also continue to participate in their communications working group that meets bi-monthly, along with many other communication directors and clerks and recorders as part of this organization. So that was a fruitful trip. That is what I have for this report.
Thank you. Any
Yes, of course.
questions?
The forum, the program structure, I know it's, should be something that we're continuing on. So I didn't get a budget or a full program. I got participants. So do we have that?
That had been sent previously. The budget right now is around 10,000, and we might come underneath that. We are getting a lot of donated time. People are donating their time for the panel as well. There is no honorarium. I will resend you, but it is pretty packed from 10 to 5 p.m. Between our panelists, between an opening presentation on voter trends, and then really what is the heart of the forum is our live surveys and our talkback sessions too. So
Okay.
there is
Live
plenty of...
surveys at the forum?
What's that?
Live surveys at the forum?
That is right.
Doing the live surveys. So, but I mean, what is our overall purpose and goal of what we're presenting? What do we want to get? What does success look like to us?
Success is getting as much feedback and response in our surveys as possible. We will have a citywide online survey that'll be going out in early March. So this is not something that people just have to attend in person. We are going to be emailing every registered voter in the city this online survey, urging them to take it, as well as invitation to the forum. This is on really every topic that we can fit within a reasonable span for people. We're working on finalizing the questions of this survey. We'll certainly share it with the commissioners. But these live survey will also be asking those questions in person, with having people interact through their phones or another tablet device that is there, as well as opportunity for public comment and talkback, so that this is an interactive forum. This is not just, there will be participation for voters and people that are present through 3 main live survey portions and talkback sessions. And then ultimately the goal would be that we have not only just the data, but create a report that is not just for the public, but is for our legislators and for our funders at Chicago City Council and Cook County government, where we want to hear from the voters directly what they think are the priorities for the future of voting. So these topics include additional early voting sites. These include their feelings on vote by mail, ways that we can point to our legislators and funders so they can hear directly from the voters rather than just from the board as well.
And I do have this overview, so I hope we didn't pass each other in that. How many participants? You said a budget of 10,000 with some added in-kind services. How many are you anticipating that you built that budget on?
We're making the room comfortable for 150 people.
We think we're going to get that? 'Cause I don't think-
Sure hope so. We've got some interest so far. And we imagine there will be a drop-off for the actual day, but this is why we really are pushing and will contact every voter about the online survey as well, that this is really a way for every voter to participate in providing the board with their feedback, whether they come to the forum in person or not.
So we're providing it virtually too?
We are providing a virtual link to the survey which will be housed in a Google document, just for ease of access and collection of the information. We're looking into streaming the event live, but it will be videotaped and it will be shared afterwards, the entire event. And then all materials as well as the report will be shared publicly after the forum.
In addition to the survey of what people want, the feedback, what is it that we're getting out there, that our statement? What is it that we're telling them that, like you said, the future of voting, and I remember from your email on who was presenting different panels on overview of, I guess we're putting out what the board does and our educational program.
We're not trying to focus too much on, lectures or really speeches that, take up of what the board has accomplished, and more of having a conversation with our community partners and the public on three major topics, and that is improving voter turnout, that is making elections accessible, and that is ultimately the future of voting, and that is many of the different ideas and legislation that's on the table, both in Springfield and locally on different topics. So those are really the main three topics that both the panels and our survey focus on. Feedback on the processes of voting that already exist, ways that we can continue to improve turnout, as well as issues or barriers that still keep people from registering or heading towards the polls, making elections accessible both for voters with disabilities, as well as improving language access, and then many different types of topics that they continue to talk about in Springfield, as well as Chicago City Council. That includes increasing access for voting in jails, ranked choice voting, automatic voter registration, a large topic of what is really in current discussion.
And you were at the large election administration meeting, so are we including any, we talked about it a bit, but including those things, topics that happen, such as from Election Central, Brennan Center, and UCLA, and those issues? Are we going to be including those?
Yeah.
Maybe by Zoom?
I think I think we can discuss a bit more. Our panels are getting a bit full. I think it's a situation of not wanting to try to have 7 or 9 people who only get one response within an hour time. However, Carolina Lopez from Pledge, the executive director, has been a great resource for large election jurisdictions. I know that she is assisting the new Cook County Clerk's Office in advising them as for their elections. I think this would be a good invite, and we can discuss more, but I think she would be a good fit for us to invite as well.
No, I saw your list, and it's rather fulsome, so we don't need a lot of people participating. My goal is to figure out what the actual program and what we get out of it with our presentation. I know I was actually at the last one in 2012. So that's why my concern is what we have.
Well, certainly. Well, then I'll follow up with everything where it's at right now. We can have a larger discussion then too, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Of course.
And just briefly, I was so happy to hear you say that you took part in a tour of San Diego County's election offices. As I think you know, the American Bar Association has started doing a thing of wherever they hold their meetings, they tour the election offices, and we were the ones that started that. And because of that, I've now toured offices in Portland, Oregon, Denver, and just last month, Maricopa County, Arizona. And it is interesting to see the differences. And I do get a little envious when they have all their facilities in one location, and it's a newer building. Though Maricopa, I'm glad from the outside, it's a standalone building, but with the problems they've had there, it looks a bit like a medium security prison. But I'm glad that we don't have that. So, but I'm glad you took part in that. And any ideas we can get from these tours, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I will proceed. Oh, Mr. Bever, anything else? Sorry. No, that's okay, thank you. Proceed with old business infrastructure projects and changes in election administration, including electronic poll books and voting equipment. Anything additional to mention here?
Nothing at the time, Madam Chair.
Okay. And legislation, Mr. Lasker.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. As Mr. Holliday reported, we did have a fruitful meeting last week with Lake County and Cook County and the lobbyists for ourselves and for AECOI, the election commissions. They're reporting that there still hasn't been much movement on the numerous bills that are pending and still the plan for an election omnibus bill. So not really much more to report today.
Okay. Thank you. And then now we'll proceed to new business. First item is proposed legal services agreement with Robinson, Stewart, Montgomery, and Dopke LLC for ethics advising and counseling services. Mr. Lasker?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. We've expressed an interest in updating our ethics policies around the board and obtaining some outside legal counsel for that, and to have an independent outside firm for serving as an ethics officer. We've reviewed, and I've sent you resumes or biographies of the attorneys at Robinson, Stewart, Montgomery, and Dopke, all of whom have lots of experience working with attorney ethics rules and general governmental ethics rules. And so we're requesting the contract for those legal services.
I'm very pleased we have Mary Robinson on it, and she's the
Yes.
best at it. As I think you know, I'm also the chair of the ethics committee of the American Bar Association State and Local Government section, and she is renowned as an expert in this. So this is wonderful.
Well, and I'll tell you, in my conversations with her about this, she's very pleased and enthusiastic about being able to assist the board with this. She's done a lot of work throughout her career on ethics laws and rules. But to bring it to an election commission is something brand new for her, and she says she does care a lot about elections. So this is just another thing she's going to be very interested to do.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve a legal services agreement with Robinson, Stewart, Montgomery, and Dopke LLC for ethics advisor and counselor services at the rate of $295 per hour, with a durational term beginning February 25th, 2025, and expiring at the end of February 2026?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Next item is a proposed legal services agreement with Fager, Drinkle, Biddle, and Reith LLP for legal advice and counsel regarding commercial real estate use agreements and leases. Mr. Lasker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I believe Mr. Holliday has discussed with you, we're most likely not going to be continuing on at the same early voting site because the costs are going way up, presumably due to it being across the street from Google's new development at the old State of Illinois building. Working with the board's facilities consultant, Dean Fatikas, he and Mr. Holliday have identified what could be a suitable site at 137 South State Street. That's at the northeast corner of State and Adams, at a much more competitive rate. And so what we're requesting is legal services for this and for any other large-scale commercial leases that may arise. There was previously some thought maybe that would happen with the warehouse. I'd like to personally have them take a look at the leases for this office space and for any other large commercial space leases that we do. So the attorneys, Lenny Asaro and his associate, Aaron Fournier, have substantial experience in commercial real estate litigation, contracts, negotiations, and so forth. So we're requesting the contract for outside legal services there.
What was the term of the 191? I seem to remember that that's what we went there because we could have some kind of sustained stay, but I'm not averse to the other. But what was the term? Is it up?
It expired after this last November election. They offered a 3-month renewal, but we don't have any use for it at this current time without an election here in 2025. So we did not sign on for the 3-month extension. And now again, we're looking forward towards now the 2026 primary, and they've quoted us a price. I don't have the numbers, but I was shown the numbers, and they were substantially higher and not really competitive towards what Mr. Fatikas has been finding in other locations.
Okay.
I'm pleased to see that we've worked with these attorneys before and satisfactory results. It's interesting. I know a bit about this building that we're looking at. In fact, I've got a photo of it. It was the former Baskin's retail those, a few of us who are a little older might remember Baskins. And it was the first building built in the Loop after World War II. It was for like 10 years, there were no buildings being built here. That was the first building built. And then in the 90s, it was converted to the N-Wave Chiller Building. And as you probably know, there are floor-to-ceiling water and ice tanks above it in the second through fifth floors, and also blowers and piping and all this that sends cool and cold water to other buildings of the Loop. I just want assurance that in the almost 25 years it's been working as that, they haven't had any leakage into the, it was a CVS on the first floor. So we can make sure we also have coverage for, any kind of compensation and indemnity if that were to happen. But I have not heard of any problems with it, but it's an incredible thing what they've done with this building. It's got a very, very interesting history as well. Cool.
Is there a motion to approve a legal services agreement with Baker, Drinkle, Biddle, and Reith LLP for legal advice, counsel, and representation related to commercial real estate use agreements at the rate of $295 per hour with a durational term beginning February 25th, 2025 and expiring on February 24th, 2026?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
There you go again.
Next is legal report. Mr. Lasker.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. I reported on several things last week that remain ongoing projects. In addition to that, we've sort of officially kicked off the process of modernizing and improving the board's procurement policies. We had, Mr. Holliday and Mrs. Sparrow and I had a meeting with managers and assistant managers last week to talk about this plan, to start brainstorming ideas, and of course also just a refresher course as to how things currently work on contract procurement. These policies have not apparently not been updated since 1999, so I think it's due time for us to do this. And in addition to that, I'm getting started on the 2026 election calendar. I've already done some preliminary calculations that I previously sent to you, and we'll just have to see, again, for keeping our eye on the legislative process to see what kind of changes there may be in election scheduling or administration for that March primary, March 17th primary.
Okay.
And that's it for today.
Okay, no questions?
When you said that the procurement, is this net woven?
That's computer software to help facilitate the procurements, but NetWoven doesn't set the policies.
I know they don't set the policies, but I mean, I think I said I would get back to what the timelines, is that you or the group or how?
Well, so again, a part of the meeting last week did include that there'll be ongoing and substantially more NetWoven training to get the managers and their staff members utilizing the system. They are already utilizing it, but there's been some changes. So that's going to be a part of what we're having, but we're anticipating ongoing meetings to get feedback from the managers sort of in conjunction with training on the an implementation of the NetWoven.
So we're
The
training them on it now, or maybe I'm not understanding you. The implementation process, do we have a time certain?
So it's already in use and managers are already using it, but a part of the current contract with NetWoven is also for them to develop a more robust training system. And so that's a part of the ongoing project.
I would see there'd be maintenance and modification, but it's fully implemented as we ordered it now. And then there are modifications that we're doing because we're using it now.
Well, I mean, as we've discussed, I wouldn't say it's fully implemented as we originally ordered it, because there were some parts of the whole development process that were not completed when the time ran out on the first contract. You may recall that they then wanted a contract to build a whole separate and second section to the software that for the whole nother double of the price, and we didn't think that that was necessary. So instead we have a much smaller contract where we're just adding the modifications to the existing system that were frankly what we discussed with them during the development process, but it just wasn't there. So that's why we entered the newer contract, to be able to put those modifications in, and that's why the project remains ongoing.
So is it a value added right now, or should we be looking at
It is
other
value-
options?
It's value added right now, and Ms. Robledo has appreciated it, and the finance director, Kimberly Krillo Walker, is appreciating it. So it's already brought benefit to the board, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's fully implemented and up and running at 100% yet.
And we don't know when that'll be, just for that, just for the fully implemented of what we paid for previously.
Well, I mean, I think that when they get this data upload, that's so for example, one of the things that's recently been created and implemented in the system is the notification system for when contracts are coming near expiration, both for the durational term, but also for any financial caps, expenditure caps, if there are any. But in order for those, so new contracts, as they've been procured, have been entered by the managers and by the procurement office. And the finance office is working with those new contracts in the system to track the spending. But for all previously adopted contracts or executed contracts, that's in a database that still is internal and has not yet been fully uploaded into the system. So,
Can all of our groups work together on it and have an alert?
oh yes, that's definitely a part of it. Is every time there's a new contract created, there will be certain people who get notifications on every contract. And then, you know, if it's a community services department contract, then the manager and assistant manager for that department will be added to the notification list for that particular contract. You commissioners, all members of, not members, but all people with a user account for the system can have access. If you want to have a notification for every single contract, you commissioners could have that. Or if you want to just select it on certain contracts, you could have that. But again, I would not say it's fully 100% implemented until we have that existing database uploaded so that all of the current contracts are in the system and subject to the notifications.
Well, this has been a while, so before we have it fully uploaded, how long is that?
I don't know how long that of a process that is. I don't have prior experience with software development and data uploads like this. They will take a look at the data when we give it to them, and I will ask them for an estimate as soon as they can give us an estimate as to how long it will take, and I will inform you as to what they say.
Okay. As with everything, I have a little experience with that. So who's the lead person on the maintenance of this system for us,
Do you mean-
internal?
Be our IT manager, Matt
Matt
Lynn.
Okay. And he would make sure that, because it's only as good as it's kept.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we can pay all of this for it and no one ever changes the amounts. It's not worth it. It's nothing to us anymore. It's where it is now. So my focus is, it's done, it's at a point where it's being maintained by IT right now, and it'll be data loaded, fully loaded, but someone will have to update it on an interval basis, and that'll be Matt Lynn. is what you're talking
Well, I mean, for the software, if there's, but when you say that it will have to be updated, like if you mean every time there's a new contract procured, it's not going to be Matt Lynn who necessarily puts that data in there. It'll
But it'll
be
be
the
IT.
procurement office and finance. Finance is going to put expenditures in. They're using that program every day, right? So when a new contract gets entered, I don't think it's going to be IT's responsibility to do the data entry on the new contract procurement.
Well, they have to talk to each other because someone has to know that it's all communicating and kept updated.
Yeah.
One person may put it in, but what if the other group doesn't know? So that's why I was asking, is this all merged together?
It is,
And
yes,
everyone has a communication, they have to send each other alerts then. Otherwise, we don't have a good system.
Right, but I mean, as we see, like, we have a system where a departmental manager requests a contract, so they're involved from the beginning. And then procurement is brought in, finance is brought in, the executives are brought in, legal is brought in. And then, of course, the contract is then presented for final approval to the board. And so every step of that way, there's statuses that are entered into the system, right?
Okay.
And all the managers can go look at their specific contracts to see what the status is. And that this is a part of the ongoing training. It's not necessarily training. what we're working on is not just like how to use the software, but also just the whole grand scheme
Absolutely.
of contract procurement. And this is why I think it was a major step forward that last week we had all of the managers and assistant managers, at least who were there that day, but every department represented on this conversation, because it is a board-wide system. I mean, the warehouse was here even. So, so this is the whole point, is that we are improving the communication. There's been, from the point I stepped into working with the board, there's been a tremendous, a bit of a lack of communication between the departments about what's going on with contracts. So I think this is going to heavily improve that. IT has been, Matt Lynn from IT and his assistant manager, Dwight Thappa, they have been attending these weekly meetings with NetWoven. Of course, they speak that computer language I don't speak, so Matt sits there saying some of these things that are needed on a very technical level, and the people at NetWoven understand that. Then Amanda and Ms. Robledo, Ms. Carilla Walker talk about things that are needed specifically from the procurement office, from the finance office. I mentioned things I'd like to see from the legal side, and that's how this has been going.
I understand that
yeah.
from the internal of my main thing is up, running, and there's a maintaining person.
Yes.
There's a point person that we can go to make sure that the system stays viable over the long term. We don't just get something implemented and then the next year it's no longer usable to us.
And I think that that's just the communication. If a user, whether it's the procurement office, finance office, whether it's a board manager or whomever, if they run into a problem with that program, they will communicate that to IT and anybody else who needs to know it. It's not dissimilar. It's similar to, our internal, the voter registration system, which is what's procured and designed, and it's specifically for the board. And we have everybody in the office uses it in various different ways, but they also communicate any needs for modifications, tweaks, maintenance, and so forth to the contractor who runs that program.
Okay, because I think I remember that the major focus of NetWoven was to give us that interdepartmental communication
Absolutely.
and efficiencies.
Yes.
So in order to gain those efficiencies and make sure that they stay relevant to what we need, meet our needs, then they all need to do it, but there needs to be a particular person that can be responsible and accountable for making sure that it's all connected. And we don't have contract issues and legal issues that jump up without us knowing about it. That was
Agreed.
my main
Yep.
concern.
And I think from a technical aspect, we've got IT manager. From a procurement side, we've got the procurement office. And from the finance side, we've got them. And by all means, if I run into anything on the legal side, and I know that Mr. Holliday and Mrs. Spera as well, if we run into problems, we'll communicate it. And we've got the ongoing maintenance and support contract. We will soon come to the point where we no longer need weekly meetings with NetWoven. But we will always, have their phone number in our Rolodex.
Of course.
Yeah.
But just for the record, I need them to finish the initial first, have it fully completed and implemented.
Yeah. So we look forward to that.
And just for the record, our general counsel still has a Rolodex. But just when did we start working with NetWoven, and did they give us any ideas the timeline this would be to implement this enterprise-wide system?
There was a fully drawn, this was done through an RFP process, and so they submitted a very detailed proposal that was start to finish within a year. And I think that was
before I
2023.
started. No, it wasn't.
Was it 2022?
It was 2022. It was 95% done in
Well,
2022.
That was the
Commissioner
procurement
Brown, I was going to comment on that. It was reported to the board by the former procurement manager that it was 95% done,
In 2022.
but it was not.
Okay.
It was not.
I don't know what she meant by that, except for I've responded a few times historically. We received some sort of status report, I believe, from NetWoven that had some sort of 95% completion number in it. I disagreed with that when I saw it. But if that may have been communicated to you, not through myself. There have been road bumps along the way, as we've discussed.
As
and
with
as we-
any
yeah,
development,
yeah.
I understand, but that was since 2021, and you're telling us there was a year's contract. So this is 2025.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
what's a date certain that we need to have them so that we don't just keep rolling on with their contract while our contract system is still ineffective.
Well, don't quote me on it because I haven't done the math, but we might actually be close to 95% by now.
Oh, don't tell me 95%.
Oh, please,
yet.
yeah. But you can understand the frustration of this board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I share it with you. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Lasker?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We have no financial report. We have two requests for public comment. And the first person, good morning, and can you state your name and identify yourself?
Hello, my name is Bill Morton. I'm the president of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. I would like to request,
I just want to know,
Yes.
according to our rules, you have 5 minutes. for
Thank
it,
you.
And I'll even provide a timer.
perfect, thank
Okay.
you. It won't last that long, I don't think. I'd like to request information on binding and non-binding referendums on the upcoming election and subsequent elections. I don't claim to know everything about them. I have done some research, but I want to come to you and really get the information. I don't want to put in all this work and have our team build a team and put in all this work without having the correct information and have it be a failure. I'm looking at a binding referendum in particular, and I would imagine I would need all the information about each of the wards and each of the precincts in the city of Chicago to build our campaign. I was just requesting that somebody tap me on the shoulder or give me some information or give me the resources so that we can make it a success.
Okay. Do we have something written?
So we do have on our website, we every election cycle where we have elections in Chicago, we update a little guide on advisory referenda and also on local option referenda under the Liquor Control Act. Those are binding. The reason that we don't have anything specific on binding referenda is that you're only authorized by the Illinois Constitution and by the Illinois Election Code to do a binding referendum if either it's the kind authorized by the Constitution, which is a very narrow, limited category of referenda, binding referenda, or if there's a statute that allows for it. So it's really very much an area where people who are interested have to either know what they're doing or they need to obtain legal counsel. It's not the board's position to give out legal advice on things like that. You have to find the state statute that says you are authorized to do the kind of binding referendum that you want to do. There's a lot of taxing referenda, there's different kinds of changing the form of government referendum, but you cannot just do a binding referendum for any kind of idea that you might have. So there are some publications. We could talk offline. I'd have to go back to my office. But there are some, for example, the Illinois Institute of Continuing Legal Education comes to mind, that they have a chapter on referenda. And those are chapters that are written by Illinois lawyers, so they're very accurate and reliable with legal citations and so forth. So that's one suggestion. But as far as binding referenda, we don't actually have a publication that the board puts out.
Any kind of information, and I'd love to chat with you after the meeting.
We do include, we publish also every election cycle where we have a calendar, and I mentioned I'm getting started now with the 2026 election calendar. There are dates and deadlines regarding the filing of some binding referenda in there. But in terms of like the nuts and bolts and the fine tooth, that everything is different for depending on the actual kind of referendum, that's not something we publish.
I'm very interested in finding out information on lakefront and green space protection ordinance binding referendum in particular.
Yeah, and off the top of my head, I have no idea if that's possible. It might be, it might not be, as a binding referendum.
Looking forward to chatting with you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
And may I add, I know in our materials, I think we have it, as the Chicago Bar Association has a lawyer referral service. They've got a lot of good election lawyers in the Bar Association, and you can at least get an initial consultation for a very reasonable amount. So I think we have that information in our materials as well. So I would recommend that as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
And
it.
good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Trudy Leong, and I also work with Bill Morton at the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce. So we're very active in helping the community, and also we're very active in elections as well. The two of us are election judges, and I've been an election judge since 2012. So I understand a lot, and I'm very, very dedicated to to successful elections. And we are also very concerned about voter turnout. So Bill and I also have approached a lot of experts asking how could we improve voter turnout. And it seems as if the most striking answer that seems to make a lot of sense is that for local elections, the voter turnout is very, very low because it is during February when it's very cold. And federal elections, where you see that the election turnout is very high, that's in November. So if it is possible, maybe we could, the board will, the commissions will consider changing the local elections to November instead of February, and that might help improve voter turnout.
So we hear from a lot of different people about the weather in February for our February local elections, right? And so you're not the first. But the same answer we have to give to everybody is that is a state law. It's not up to this Board of Commissioners. We don't have the legal authority to change that date. And there's a date that sets those elections that applies to all of the municipalities with their own local elections throughout the state. So while, I'm not telling you that it can't be done, I am saying you would have to talk to the state legislature, to your state representative, your state senator, or the governor's office. Those are the people that actually have the control to change that election date.
Okay, yeah, so we'll contact them and ask for their help. Second item that we wanted to bring up was ballot access. So we have been involved in elections. Bill has run, and then for one election in particular, our advisor advised us to challenge an opponent, Kelly Cassidy. And we really didn't want to challenge, but we didn't want to go against the advisor, and that really soured relations between Kelly Cassidy and us, because she said that she doesn't challenge. So it seems as if, according to that article from the Chicago Tribune, that research ballot access that came out in October 2024, it's incumbents that keep this system entrenched with different challenges. Oftentimes, even the candidate's own signature on the election papers was challenged as being forged, and then and he verified that it was him that signed those election papers, and also voters that signed election petitions. They came forward and said that it was I that signed those petitions, but still those signatures were thrown out. It seems as if there is a lot of work that goes in toward addressing challenges. If we were to change this challenge, the challenge process, this ballot access process, I think that we think that there would be a much better process for democracy. More voices would be heard, and even if there were more candidates, the voters would have more opportunities to judge for themselves different viewpoints, different possibilities for governing.
Thank you.
Well, and I would just say yet again that the electoral board rules come from the Illinois Election Code. They're state laws. So this board is required by statute to serve as an electoral board. So again, to change those kinds of laws, you have to talk with the state legislature and the governor.
So even for the challenges too, that is under the purview of the Illinois legislature and under the purview of the state constitution?
The state election code is where those laws are set out, but yes, and these electoral boards happen all throughout the state. The state board of elections serves as an electoral board, and county clerks serve, county clerks serve as on electoral boards, and so do the election commissions. But that's all established by statute, that kind of system. It's not the same kind of system in every state, but that is the system Illinois has, and to change that, yes. Like, we have our own rules of procedure in order to fulfill the statutory requirement, but if you wanted to eliminate this kind of electoral board-based objection system, that would have to happen through the state legislature.
Well, if you could give us a little further advice about specifically who which members of the legislature would be best for us to approach, we would really appreciate it.
I don't know that. I'd start with your own.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps,
Yes.
I don't know if you were here when we announced there is an April 5th
Yeah.
forum. I'm sure outreach
Mhm.
will be focusing on, especially the Rogers Park Chamber and all across the city.
Mm-hmm.
That will be at Harold Washington. We hope you'll be able to attend.
I hope so too. Yes,
Okay.
April 5th, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to that.
And-
Thank you.
And may I just say, can we place ballot access and such on our agenda of items to discuss at the forum? Yeah, okay, because I think this is an important thing. Other states do differently. We're bound to what the state election code says, though I have to admit, we do put in systems to make it more efficient, considering the numbers we have, to do the challenge procedures as efficiently as possible, but we are bound to what the state law has. So, but yes, look forward to seeing you at the forum, and thank you both for the service to the board.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Thank you.
Do we have any further public comment? No. Okay. If not, at this time, we will move into executive session under Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act. And then we will eventually come back and into open session and finish the meeting, okay? Attend to any other business we may have and finish the meeting. So at this time, is there a motion to go into executive session under Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
And seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes, and we will go into executive session in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
We are back in open session. And at this point, we have no further business at the board. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes.